Okay, so let's go and see what JavaScript is. So JavaScript is it's a object-based scripting language. What an object is, those who have taken object-oriented programming probably already know, but if you don't know, you're fine. We'll explain what an object is. Basically, JavaScript is a scripting language. We'll actually come back to what an object is and how JavaScript is associated with different objects. But remember one thing, JavaScript is not Java. Even the syntax, there is no like similarity in the syntax or any other form. So it's a totally different programming language. And it's a scripting language, and JavaScript commands can be included in an HTML file. Using the JavaScript, you can incorporate techniques and effects that will make your web page come alive. So PHP was also a scripting language, right? But the difference between PHP and JavaScript is for PHP, the PHP document was run in the server, right? So to trigger a PHP file, you had to, from your browser, you had to request the remote server, and the PHP file would have executed there, and then you could see the results in your client, right? So the server would have sent you the results. But the difference here is JavaScript, it is running in the client side. So JavaScript, this is also a script, but this one runs in the client side. And JavaScript is embedded in HTML document, and it's rendered by the browser. The server's job is to provide the HTML document, and because all the processing that is performed by the client is all the processing that you actually mentioned in JavaScript is processed in the client. So this is called the client-side processing. So just in short, the difference is whatever you do in JavaScript is processed in the client. You don't need to go to the server. But when we are actually using the PHP, we were going to the server was evaluating the .php document, and you were coming back. Okay, so we'll show you some examples, and that will actually make things easier to understand. Another thing is, for PHP scripts, you saw that we could actually have a PHP scripting .php file, but for JavaScript we actually don't need that. We can just put all our JavaScript commands in HTML file. Okay, so the common uses of JavaScript are display message box, edit and validate form information, display current date, doing different kind of calculations. And as we go through the examples, I think these things will be more clear to you. So using JavaScript, you can create new window with a specified size and screen position, etc. Okay, so to code the JavaScript statements can be coded on a web page using two different techniques. First one is placing the JavaScript code between the script tags. So this is like just like a HTML element. So yeah, you can actually use the script tag, and your browser will now understand that this is JavaScript code. The other way is place the JavaScript code as part of an event attached to an HTML element. So as you know, every HTML element has a set of attributes, right? Suppose the anchor element A, it had an attribute like source, src. So every HTML element has some kind of attribute. They also has some events. Probably we didn't go through much of them, but in today's example you'll see. So the second, just for now, remember that the second way to write JavaScript code is attaching the JavaScript code as part of an event. Okay, again, once we actually will show the examples, it will be more clear. Okay, so as we said, like common uses, one of the common uses of JavaScript is, suppose you want to display a message box. We'll show one example here, and yeah. Okay, so let's go, and I will actually attach all these documents. Okay. Okay, very carefully look at this one. Okay, very carefully look at this one. So alert.html, right? So let's open this in Notepad first. So you see this is a HTML document. And this is like inside that there is a JavaScript code, right? So a script, and inside that you say like type is text underscore JavaScript. The reason is inside this script tag you can actually put other scripting languages as well. So you have to say like text slash JavaScript. So this is JavaScript scripting language. So this is what the first way of doing your coding, right? Because we said like we can do JavaScript statements can be coded in two different ways. First one is place JavaScript code between script tags, and the second one, so this is the first way of scripting, right? So you see this is the first way of scripting. So you put the code. So everything else is a normal HTML document. You have a head, right? Then you have body, right? And then inside the body you have this script tag. It closes with closing script tag. There you have the attribute type, and the value is like the value for the type attribute is text slash JavaScript. And inside that you see there is a built-in JavaScript function alert, and the message and the parameter for the alert function is welcome to my web page. Okay, so one thing to tell you, this is the first way of putting JavaScript code, right? Inside the script tag, and you can actually put this script tag inside the body as well as the head. Okay, so yeah, so what happens? Let's see. There is a header element, right? And then another header element. And remember, first header element is using JavaScript. The second header element says when does this display. So there is an order here. Very carefully look at this. So if we render this on our browser, let's see. Okay, so there is a pop-up window, and this one is actually created by the JavaScript code. It says like welcome to my web page. Now see one thing, we can't see any other thing yet, right? So that means the JavaScript code has been executed first, and then once we do this, then it says using JavaScript when does this display. So from these we understood two things. First thing we understood is, okay, let's see the code from here. Yeah, so first thing that we understood is this one was loaded first, right? So this function was executed first, and then these two things were displayed. So to understand why this order was followed, we will understand this in the later examples. So for now, we see one example of JavaScript that is showing a window, showing a message in a window that is created using alert built-in JavaScript function. So it's like an alert. It pops up a new window with a message that you put as the parameter of that alert function. And the way of coding is the first way of coding, putting it inside the script tag and saying and putting text/JavaScript as the value of the type attribute. Okay. So let's go back to our slide. Yeah, so this was what we just witnessed. Yep, some of the checkpoints. Remember to, when you actually do preparations, remember to have answers to these questions, because this might be helpful for your final exam as well. Okay, so to understand how JavaScript works, a very important thing is document object model. So JavaScript actually uses document object model. So let's see what document object model is. So here you can see a portion of document object model. So basically, as we said, JavaScript is a object-based language, right? It can manipulate different objects. So what is an object? In general, an object is an entity or a thing. When you are using a document object model, the browser window, the web page document, and the HTML elements are considered to be object. So very carefully look at this one. So this one, so this browser window itself, I'm using Edge. I'm using Edge browser here. Is it Edge? Yes. Yeah. So this Edge browser, and then this is one object, and then there is like this document alert.html. This is the actual web page that I'm displaying, right? This document is another object. So what is in that document? Inside that document we have HTML elements. We have head element, we have body element, we have heading h1 element, we have h2 element, right? We have different kind of elements. All these are also objects. Okay, so everything from the browser, then inside the browser we have this HTML file. Inside the file we have different HTML elements. All these are actually treated as objects. So you see, window is the, suppose if you think window is the browser, right? We say like window is the representation of the browser. Then inside the browser we have this HTML document. Inside the document you have elements, anchor element, form element, right? Image element, link element, all these are objects. Inside the form, what do you have? You have these elements, text element, button element, right? Inside the image, what is one of the attributes of image? Source, right? That one is also an object, okay? So everything like, yeah, so, okay, let's go back here. So we said these elements like HTML elements are objects. Even this one is also an object, right? And then inside that you have a parameter, like a attribute for the element. That one is also accessible through document object model. Okay, so everything is everything from the browser window to the HTML document, and then inside the HTML document you have the HTML elements. Inside the elements you have more elements or attributes. All these are objects. Yeah, so an object is a thing or entity. For example, browser window is an object, submit button is an object, web page document is an object. Everything is an object. A property is a characteristic. So an object has a property. Every object has a property. A property is a characteristics or attribute of an object. Okay. So the background color of a web page document is a property. So document is the object, and BG color, this is the property. Document last modified is a property. If you have a like an source file of an image object. Okay, I think if I show you one example, that would be more clear. So let's look at this one. So this is a HTML document, right? It's a document. So this document itself is an object, right? So let's first open this in Wise. Okay, open this with Notepad. Okay, so this is a HTML document. JavaScript says like JavaScript can access any object, and when this document itself would be an object, right? Okay, so how does JavaScript identifies this? Since this is an HTML document, right? This whole thing will be JavaScript will can access this whole thing using like to JavaScript, this whole thing is the document. So once you say like document dot background bg color, right? What happens is JavaScript can actually when it says like document, the document means to JavaScript it means the whole HTML document. So you can change the background color. I will come back to it again to show. Okay, so let's go back here. So for a HTML document, if you say like document dot JavaScript can access the whole document object using the just this document keyword, and then using dot bg color, this is the property of that object. Or every document has a modified last modified date, right? So this document was modified on January 25 at 10:39 p.m. right? So inside the JavaScript code, you can actually get this information as well. How? If you just say like document dot last modified, it will access that time. Or if you have a like a image element and then you dot source, JavaScript can actually access that as well. So that's first thing. You can access different properties of the objects, right? So first we understood what object is. A browser is an object. HTML document is an object. Inside the HTML document, we have these HTML elements. Each of them are object. Then each HTML element has some attributes. Those attributes can be accessed as the properties of the object, right? So this is one of property. Source was another attribute. So this can be accessed as a property of the object. And then the third thing is the method. So you can actually manipulate each object using a method on it. So that means if you say document.write, that means you are writing something on the document. If you say like form1.submit, so this is the third thing, the method. Method is an action on the object. Okay. So three things are here. Through JavaScript, you can access the object. You can extract the properties of the object, right? And then you can apply different methods on the object. Okay, so let me show you one example which will show you how we can use these. Okay, so let's do this one. Let's open with Notepad and see what is in there. So you see this is a HTML document, right? This is the head. This part is the body. This is the body. Okay, I think better would be if I open it with another. we have Notepad++. Okay, yeah. So this is the HTML document, and this will. So this is the head, and this is the body. So I expand the body. Inside that, you see I have a script tag. So inside this is the JavaScript code, right? So as we said, uh, JavaScript can access different objects. So when it says like document means this HTML, this page. So by document, JavaScript accesses the whole page. And then there is the built-in function .write. So what does it do? When this piece of code will be executed, it will write something in the document, write something in the HTML document. What will it write? It will write a paragraph, and then it will write a heading element. So you see, very carefully look at this. This body has one heading 1 element, then it has a heading 3 element, and nothing else. Everything else is here, right? There is some code. So this JavaScript code is going to, once executed, it's going to write two things in the document, one paragraph, one H2 element. Okay, so now let's go and see, try to load this on the browser. Okay, so now you see in the code we saw like there were like only two elements, right? There were a heading 1 and heading 3. But then if I see here you see that we have 4 elements: 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? So what happened? What happened here? So what happened is, once we loaded the HTML document, this JavaScript code was executed. So the first function actually wrote this thing. It wrote a paragraph element using document.write to add text. So it added this paragraph element. This was dynamically added to your document, you see. And then we added another element, and that one was dynamically added. So although in the original document there was no paragraph or heading 2 element, but what happened is JavaScript is, as you know, it's a client-side scripting. So everything is processed in the client. The client here is the browser, right? So the browser actually processed the code here, and it added these two in the document, you see. So it added two more elements. So these two elements were actually added just on the fly. If I close it and go to the document again, I will see this. So these two elements were just added during the loading thing. So this is how you can change your web page dynamically based on different. So now it got changed because of the loading of the file, right? You can actually change your document in different ways in different conditions. Okay, the third one was H3. So you see here. Okay, then there was there was one script, and then there was another script. Inside that script, we wrote something. We said like document.write is document.last modified. So in this, and this one is inside this header 3. You see this? So this will say this document was last modified on, and then it will execute this JavaScript code. So what happened? Once we load, you see this document was last modified on, and then dynamically this time, as we said, January 1st, it was 10:39 p.m., right? that means 22 to 39. This one was added to the header 3 element, and you see it here, right? So this is how JavaScript changed the document. And how did it change the document? It considers the whole document as an object, and it applied the method on the object. We say it like it can access the object and it can apply a method on the object, right? It applied the method on the object. And also we said it can extract the different properties of the object. So you see here, document.last modified, this is a property, right? So it extracted the property of the object and it manipulated, it changed the object. So dynamically we added the extracted information to the HTML document, right? Okay. So I hope this one actually gives you some idea about how JavaScript treats the whole everything as an object, and it can apply methods on the object, and it can also extract the properties of the object. Okay, so next thing is events. So basically what happens is, as the user is viewing a web page, the browser, that is your client, detects mouse movements and events. An event is an action taken by the web page visitor. So once you are visiting a web page, you are doing different things. You are clicking something, you are moving your mouse, everything is actually tracked by your browser. And those are actually called events. And in JavaScript, you are able to capture those events. Okay, so different events are, so this is the name of different events: clicking, placing the mouse on the element, removing the mouse from an element, loading the page, unloading the page. And then against each event, there is some event handler in JavaScript. So these event handlers are called, for click, the event handler is onClick. For the load event, the event handler is onLoad. For mouse over, on mouse over, mouse out, on mouse out, submit, on submit. So JavaScript is able to handle all these events on the objects using these event handlers. So we are going to show you another example to make this clear so that you can understand this. Okay, so let's open this mouse over test. First, we are opening it in Notepad++ because we know JavaScript actually makes changes to the document. So before we made changes, how it looked like. So it had the head element. There was nothing in the head. Okay. Then it had the body element, this HTML document. Inside the head, inside the body, there was a heading element. And then there were like a list, an unordered list, right? And this unordered list had two elements. This is the first element, and this is the second element. And each of them actually has a link, right? The link doesn't take you anywhere. So it just creates a link. And okay, now let's go and check what happens if I load it, and then we'll explain what's happening. Okay, so two links are created, right? Mouse over test and mouse out test. So two links are created here. You see the links here: mouse over test and mouse out test, right? So as we said, like the browser is able to detect what you are doing. So if I click here, the browser is able to do something, right? Even if I'm moving my mouse, it's able to capture what I'm doing. So these are called the events. as we said, like different events are like clicking is an event, loading the page is an event, unloading the page is an event, submitting a button is an event, putting a mouse over something is an event, uh, taking the mouse out is also an event. So JavaScript is able to capture those events through the event handler, and these are the built-in event handlers it can work on. So these are the name of the event handlers. Okay, let's go and see what happens. So you see here, for the first link, it says on mouse over. That means these event, if you these on mouse, this is an event handler, right? When does it happen? When you actually move your mouse over some element. So it says on mouse over. So if you put your mouse there, what will happen? It will, so if you trigger this event, what will happen? There will be an alert function and with a text saying you moused over. The second link, for the second link, if you take the mouse out from the second link, it will give an alert saying you moused out. Okay, so now another thing that you need to understand here, this is a second way of coding JavaScript code, right? So here we don't have any script tag. Let's go and see what we saw in the previous slide. So we said JavaScript statements can be coded on a web page in two different techniques. First one is place the JavaScript code between script tags. And the second one is place the JavaScript code as part of an event attached to the HTML document. So what did we do here? We place the JavaScript code here, right? So this is the JavaScript code to this point as part of an event, right? So as part of an event attached to an HTML element, and this event is attached to this anchor element, right? So this is the second way of writing JavaScript code. Okay, so let's go and see what happens. So let's go to the second link. Nothing happens, right? Nothing happens. So I take my mouse away, immediately says you moused out. So this is the second link, right? So on mouse out, this one gets triggered when I actually move my mouse, and immediately the alert function actually creates a window with some text. So you see here, nothing happens, right? Second one. Now I take my mouse away, immediately what will happen? Mouse out event will trigger, and we said we had the JavaScript code, it said on mouse out, it shows you on alert. Okay, right. Okay, for the first link, what happened? It said like this one is not on mouse out, this is on mouse over. So as soon as I put my mouse on the first link, it should show me one alert saying you moused over. Okay, let's do this. Second link, nothing happens. Oh, okay, I moused out. Yeah, I moved my mouse out. But first link, yeah, I put my mouse, immediately says you moused over. Because the JavaScript code, it was event handler is something it actually waits for the event. So as soon as the event happens, the event handler triggers and the JavaScript code gets executed. Okay, so this is the second way of putting on a script language. Okay, let's go to our slide. Okay, so now the events, I think you got an example of this is what exactly I showed you as the example. Next checkpoints, make sure that you have the answers for these. Next, variable. So a variable is a placeholder for information. Already you know about variables. You know variables in different programming language. Also in PHP, we showed you variables. In PHP, the way to declare variable is using $sign. But here in JavaScript, you can also use variables, and these variables are like stored in computer's memory. That means as soon as you close your browser, the memory is flashed. It's in the RAM. So the way to declare a variable in JavaScript is using this var, var. So you say like var username. That means you are declaring a variable with called username, and then you are assigning a value to the username, current, and finally you say like document.write username. So what will happen? It will actually add this to your HTML document. So let's go and see one variable example here. So open with, again I'm opening with Notepad. Okay, so here you see this is the first way of putting JavaScript code, right? So it says like uh, using JavaScript, and then there's a heading element h2, right? Inside h2 I have this script. Okay, inside that script, what do I do is I declare a variable, I assign a value to the variable, and finally I write document.write. So okay, it will write that variable to the document. So let's load this. So you see this one actually was written. So if I go to check the code now this thing is not inside the script anymore. This is written on the document on the fly, because what, this one got executed and this one was written right in the document. Okay, next let's go to the second example of a variable. So this here again, this time I have just one heading element and I don't have any heading 2 element. Instead, this is done differently, right? Previous time I had a heading 2 element. Inside that I have this JavaScript code. This time I have the code and I am declaring the variable, assigning value to it. Then I'm calling this document.write. So what will it do? It will actually, once I do this, what should happen? It should add something like this. Yeah, so username would be Karen, right? So once it will get executed, it will look like this. Let's see if it looks like this. I'm loading it. Okay, let's go to the code. Yeah, you see, this one got added to the document. Okay, now the third one. Open with. Okay, so this one. Okay, this one is we declare the variable, and then we call a default function. So this is a default method, JavaScript method prompt. So what it does is it's like previously we have shown you the alert method, which is a built-in method. Prompt is another method where it pops up a window and asks for something. Okay, so it has a text and then it will ask for an input. You put the input there, it will assign that input to username, and then it will write that thing in the document. Okay, let's go and see what happens. So okay, so what's your name? Okay, my name is Mehrab. Do it, it says hello Mehrab. Okay, so what happened? Let's see. Yeah, so the script, the prompt, it actually popped up that window, that input in window. Inside that there was a text saying, please enter your name. I entered my name, Mehrab. So Mehrab was assigned to username, and then a heading to element was added, right? You see it here. Okay. Okay, so next. So now you see on the fly how we can change the document. We can use variables. So we can extract different properties of the document.last modified. We can capture events for, suppose for the previous one, we captured the mouse over event and attached it to the anchor element, right? And then we followed the second way of coding JavaScript code here. So yeah, prompt method, it displays a message and accepts a value from the user. We just saw it, right? Next, we can, using JavaScript, we can do different kind of calculations, comparisons, and then we can have like different kind of decision making using if and else. Again, remember all these we could do in PHP, but what's the difference? The PHP runs in the server, right? So it gets executed in the server and sends back out the result, which we see in the client. But now, today we even don't have any server running, right? We don't have our Apache server. Any other server is, nothing is running. Everything is happening in the browser. Everything is happening on the browser. So we just have this browser and everything is getting evaluated here because this is JavaScript. Okay, so we can have like conditions, if else, then we can define function. Okay, so let's go and check some condition examples. Okay, so what is the condition? Okay, let's see, look at this one. Okay, so this is the HTML document. Inside the body you have the script. Okay, we've declared a variable quantity. Then this will actually call the prompt method, which will create a window. That means it will ask you for an input. And then if the input is, you see, this variable is compared against 0. Like if it's less than equals to 0, it says like quantity is not greater than equal to 0, and then it will say please refresh the web page. But if it's like greater than 0, then it will say okay, quantity is greater than 0. So these things will be written in the document, right? Using paragraph. So new paragraph will be written to the document. Okay, let's go and see how it looks like. Okay, let us load it in the browser. Yeah, so prompt, this one got triggered, right? This one got triggered. Another thing to remember, you see this one gets executed first, right? Because we have a heading 1 element, but still you don't see it, right? Okay. So let's try to put a wrong value, -10. Okay, now you see quantity is not greater than 0. Please refresh the web page. So what happened? We put -10 here. Quantity became -10, which is less than equals to 0. So 2 paragraphs were added to the document. This is the first paragraph. This is the second paragraph. Okay, they were added to the document. Okay, so yes, you see, 2 paragraphs were added to the document. It says refresh the document. Okay, so once we refresh, what will happen? Again, this document will be loaded. Again, this function will be prompted and it will be start all over again. Okay, then basically we're loading it again. So this one is now here, right? This one, this time I put 5. Now what happened? quantity is greater than 0. You see how dynamically it changed, because this time it didn't hit the if, instead it hit the else, and a paragraph was added saying quantity is greater than 0. Okay, yep. Let's see the code. Yeah, so this one was added to the document. Okay. Okay, so we can do decision making. We can do if else, right? Then function, we can define function in JavaScript. The way a JavaScript function is defined is you put the keyword function and then you put a name and braces, right? Just like this one is just like PHP. Okay. So for defining a function, yeah, so this is you are defining a function. Once you say function, that means you are defining a function. You will put a name here. Inside that function, you do something. And next time when you actually call the function, you just call the function like this. This is just similar to PHP or other programming languages. Okay. So do we have any examples of a function? I don't know. Maybe this one. Yeah. Okay, yeah, we have a function here. So this time we don't have anything in the, we said that your head or body, it's fine. So inside the head we have this script tag. That means okay, another thing, for the script tag we said like you could, oh okay, you could have like type equals to text slash JavaScript. You can do this, or you can just leave it empty. That means by default it's JavaScript by default, but you can put other scripts. That's why if you could say like type equals to text slash TypeScript or something, that's a different thing. But by default this is JavaScript. Okay, inside that a function was defined. That name of the function is prompt quantity. So what does that function do? It declares a variable and then it calls the prompt function, which is a built-in function, asks for a quantity. So the same thing, it does the same thing just as the previous example. The only difference is here we call that function prompt quantity. You see, you call the function in the body. So what do we do? You see here, inside the body we have this one button element, like input element of type button. Value means what will be displayed on the button. It will, the display would say click on enter quantity. And as we discussed already, there are different events happening. So once you click a button, the browser can immediately grab that event, and this event handler on click. Okay, let's go. So once you click an element, the event handler is JavaScript's event handler is on click. So this one will get triggered. This one will get triggered, and what it will do is, okay, I'm here, sorry. This one will get triggered and it will call prompt quantity. Okay, so let's go and see what happens. Okay, so you see now we have a button. Okay, here is one thing, like since this is a function, right? This is a function, right? So this function hasn't been called yet. That's why it hasn't triggered. Before, what you saw is if this one was not inside the function, it was just inside the script, this would have triggered. But now it's inside the function and it hasn't been called yet. When it's going to be called, if I click on this, right? Click on this button. Immediately what will happen is on click event handler is waiting. So it's just waiting. This is a event handler. Every event handler is associated with an HTML element. So the on click means the clicking this element. So this is waiting, and once I click on this will get triggered and it will call the prompt quantity function. So this is, again, this is the second way of, this is the first way of writing JavaScript code, right? Here you are writing a JavaScript code, you are calling a function. This is the second way, right? Associating with an event. Okay, so let's go and see. So we click, yeah, on click gets triggered, that event gets triggered. I say like 50. Thank you for entering a quantity greater than 0. Okay, now the difference is last time we were writing to the document, right? Last time we were writing to the document, but this time we are not writing to the document. Rather, it says like we are actually calling another function. So if this, I'm calling alert, which is creating another window, right? So this time I'm not writing to the document. Instead, I am calling another function, like another built-in function which creates a window. Okay. So form validation, as you know, we did a lot of form validation already in when we showed you the PHP example. In all the cases, what we did is we did the validation using PHP. So that means we were sending the data to the server, PHP server. That PHP script was actually validating it and sending it back. But instead of that, you can do your validation as actually not all the time. Sometimes you need to do the validation in the server, but if you can do it in the client, why then you can use JavaScript. So it is a common use of JavaScript to validate form information before submitting it to the web server. Like, is the name entered, is the email address in correct format, is the phone number in correct format? Okay, so let's see one example here. Okay, validate form. Okay, so this one. Okay, so what it's going to do is okay, so this one has also CSS. Okay, so this is inside the head. I have some a function validate form. Okay, here another thing is I'm just letting you know. So there is a form here, right? Okay, so there's a form here. Form element. Methods is post. Action, that means once you click submit, it will call this. It's not a PHP. It will call some ASP. Right. This is also a scripting language. So it will go to this and on submit. So once you actually submit this, what will happen is this on submit event will be triggered. What it will do is it will return this thing. So return validate form. So validate form function is here. Okay. So what does the validate form do? And once this is true, only then the action will take place. Okay. So the validate form will check inside this document, inside this whole document, how will you access these ones, these elements? As we said, JavaScript considers every element as what? As object. And then it can actually get the properties and values of that object. Okay, so properties of that object. So every attribute of an object is a property to JavaScript. Okay, so here is one form. So once you say document dot forms 0, it will select this form. It will take this form. And then inside the form, you have, what do you have? You have different elements, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 HTML elements. Each of these element has a name, has an attribute, right? For, so username. So once you say for, and then put the value username, so it will actually, you can access it using the username dot value. Oh, sorry. I just missed it. This is not the element. This is just a label. So this is one element, right? Input element. Then we have second input element, and then we have third input element. Three input elements. First two are text, and the last one is submit. This is a button. First two has the name, username. The second one has the name, user, age, and okay, so the first two has just the name of the elements. And okay, so what happens if document dot forms 0 dot username dot value equals to empty? Then I said I show an alert window. I return false. If document dot forms 0 dot user age dot value less than 18, then I return for, I show an alert, right? Otherwise, I say like name and age are valid, and I return true. I return true here. If I return true, then the action will happen. Okay, so let's do this. Name, I keep it empty. Age, I say like 10, and information. So you see, it says name cannot be empty. Okay, so I put a name, Merab, age 10, send information. It says age is less than 18, you are not an adult. Okay, so it fails again. I put it like 19. Now it says name and age are valid. So that means now it returned true, and the action will now happen. It could have been a PHP, but now it takes us to some ASP page. Okay, so this is the ASP form demo.asp. Nothing was there. Okay. Okay, so let's go back. Let's do this thing. Let's add another form here, the document. Okay, I added another form. So let's load this. Now you should see two of them, right? Two of them. But here is one thing. If I put anything here, okay. Now you see what happens. It still is evaluating this part. It's not even evaluating this part. So how can I evaluate this part? So you see I have two forms, right? So this function, if I change it to form 1, and then let's change it to username, uh, just say like username 1, user age 1. Okay, we are changing the names. Type submit. Okay, it's okay. Submit 1. Let's put a submit 1. Now username. Now forms 1. Once I say form 1, what will happen? It will actually select these form. So automatically it's able to select elements. It creates an array. First form in the order form 0. Second form 1. Okay, form 1. Then how do I select this input element, text element? The name is username 1, right? How do I select this element, this input element? user age 1, the name is age 1. Then I put the value. Okay, let's see. Less. I'm saving this. I am loading this again. Okay, this time you see here I put like 10. Now it actually fails because this time this function is validating on not on the first form, rather on the second form, right? I could actually add the checks for the first form. So this is an important learning on how JavaScript is accessing every element as an object, right? So the document, the whole document, HTML document is a document object. This HTML form element is a forms object. And if you have multiple forms, they are treated as an elements of array. So this is form 0, this is forms 1. Inside that forms element, you have these input elements and they're accessed through their names, right? So this is, as I said earlier, every attribute is a property. So this is a property of the element of the object. This is another property of the object. And then you have this value that comes from the text box. Then you are doing conditionals and either returning true or false. And based on true or false, you reach the action. So this is how you do form validation in JavaScript. Okay. Yeah, so yeah, use these on null to check to determine if a form value has information. Okay, I think we are actually over time, so probably I won't be able to go much through jQuery. Yeah, so just a little bit of jQuery. Now, jQuery is actually an open source JavaScript library. It provides interactions and dynamic effects on the web page. So basically, sometimes what happens is your browser may have JavaScript disabled. So if you have JavaScript code inside your web page, may not be able to write it. So jQuery is actually, what can we say? It's a wrapper on JavaScript. It's a library. So either you download the jQuery, so either you download it or you access the jQuery via CD and content distribution network. So inside your HTML document, you can just put this. So what it will do is so the library means all the JavaScript functions and other things are defined here. So you can just directly call them. So either you can download it or you can access it directly using this code in your document. So just I'm showing one event. So this is ready event, triggered when the browser has loaded the document object model for the web page. Okay, so let me show you just one jQuery example. Okay, so this one. Okay, so here, as we said, we could just download the jQuery library in your machine and do it from there. Instead, here we didn't download it. We are putting a reference to the library. So that means this library had a set of JavaScript functions and you can just use them directly. So in jQuery, the way you select the object is you put a $sign and then inside the braces you put the object name. So this one means you have selected the document object and then you are calling an action on it. So ready right? Document.ready, this is a built-in jQuery function, and it will actually show you one alert when the document is loaded. So what is this ready thing? This ready is a built-in function. This is not a JavaScript function. This is a jQuery function. What is the difference? This ready function is actually defined here. This is a wrapper on JavaScript. Okay, so just for now, I'm excluding it from the jQuery. From maybe you can have just one or two questions from just what I taught you. That is, this is a wrapper on JavaScript. This is the jQuery library. You can load it either by downloading it, or you can put a reference to it. And then the way to select object using jQuery is doing $, and then inside the braces you put the object element. And this is a jQuery function. Where is this function defined? Obviously here, right? There are other functions as well in this library. You could just directly call them. Okay, so let's try to load this. Yeah, so it's ready for jQuery. Okay, so I will keep it short here. I won't go deep into jQuery. Yeah, so I gave you brief idea about, very little idea about jQuery, but mostly we talked about JavaScript. So what you have to do is, I'm going to put all these things, the slide as well as these examples in your in Blackboard, and make sure you watch the video, watch the examples, run the code just like I did. I first opened it in Notepad, right? In Notepad++, that's even better. Yeah, open it in Notepad++, see what's happening here. Then load it in the browser. Load it in the browser, and then look at it, Control-Shift-I, to see what changed in the document. Okay. Yep. And yeah, so go through the slide, go through the video, and if you have the textbook, if you have any complication or any you need some understanding, just go to your textbook to get a better understanding. So again, I'm just emphasizing that it's very important to follow the lecture and the video and do the practices, because that's the key. And another thing is, I have added, as I said, like I added 10 bonus points. Try to utilize it.